Next on AM 560 The Answer.
Listen to AM 560 The Answer online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, and on TuneIn, iHeart, and on Odyssey.
Mike Madigan runs the Democratic House for 30 plus years running. He's promising this and he's stealing that. Where can you get that kind of money? He's using your house like his own piggy bank. You ought to know by now. You can pay off your house here in Illinois, but you can never keep up with the taxes. Oh, how it's always been the plan to have a taxpayer pay, no doubt. Not a matter of if anymore, but when you're moving out. I said, when you're moving out.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Amy is sick today, so hopefully she'll get well soon and be back in short order. Time for, that theme music means it's time for our weekly confab with Ted Dabrowski, the president of Wirepoints.com, all things Illinois policy related. And let's start with an Illinois policy from way back in 2021, a year ago, a little less. You may remember the landmark criminal justice reform package that Governor Jelly Belly signed into law that would phase out the use of cash bail, making Illinois among the first states to do so, eliminating cash bail. That doesn't get fully phased out until January of 23, but it's in process. And there were other matters to pretrial detention, relaxations, sentencing relaxations, of course, the imposition of what they call more accountability with respect to police. It was really more liability exposure for police related to the conduct of their professional responsibilities. Hailed by the Black Caucus, despite opposition from law enforcement, police unions. So just thinking about that at the state level, because I know we think of crime control and public safety as mainly a local issue, and it is, but the state still has some impact. Let's go back to the case that we discussed in some detail yesterday, the police officer who was murdered in Bradley, Illinois, Sergeant Ritmanek, and her partner, Tyler Bailey, who took a gunshot wound to the head and is in critical condition, last reported. And the individuals who have been arrested in connection with the murder of the one officer and the shooting of the other, particularly the 25-year-old man. He's been arrested 21 times and charged 43 different times with various crimes around Kankakee County over the past 7 years. 21 times arrested in 7 years in Kankakee County. Known quantity. His crimes included felony burglary, residential burglary, felony possession of a stolen firearm, felony criminal damage to government property, misdemeanor theft, resisting a peace officer. Cited 10 times for driving without a valid driver's license, 8 times for driving without auto insurance. Many of those cases were still open with the court, several active warrants for his arrest. Most recently, warrant was issued for this guy's arrest in July of last year after he failed to appear in court to face a May 5th misdemeanor battery charge in Bradley. In April, he was cited by Illinois State Police for driving on a suspended license without insurance and with marijuana in the car. He was not asked to post cash bond, promised to appear, didn't show up for court. Then a warrant was issued for his arrest. In February, so a couple months earlier, cited by Bourbonnais Police for driving on a suspended license without vehicle registration or insurance, was not asked to post cash bond, promised to appear, did not show up for court. A familiar story, unfortunately, in Illinois. Usually it's in the context of Chicago, but it's not limited to Chicago. There are other mid-sized communities around the state that have serious violence problems as well. And, and on a per capita basis, some approaching the problems that we document routinely in Chicago. So now, in the wake of this officer's murder, and as more information becomes available about the criminal justice system in Kankakee County, like the criminal justice system in Illinois, informed by criminal justice reforms at the state level, now do we have the issue of crime finally arrive at Governor Jellybelly's well-appointed doorstep? Well, let's put that question to Ted Dabrowski. Ted, thanks for joining us, as always. Appreciate it.
Hey, Dan. Happy New Year, and sorry to hear Amy's sick.
Yeah, what about a Happy New Year to you? And what about this? We talk about Chicago police, and we talk about the mayor, and we talk about suburban communities that are hit, and then we have something so devastating and savage as what occurred with respect to these two police officers in Bradley. And it's at least in part informed by what's happening at the state level, which permeates the entire state. So what about Governor Pritzker's responsibility here?
Yeah, we remember when all those laws were being passed a year ago, and they were hailing them as these fantastic reforms. But, I remember probably 4 or 5 years ago when this stuff started taking hold, and we had all kinds of these criminal justice reforms, and they sound good on paper because it's if you don't know the facts, and most people don't know the facts, and the facts aren't out there, that while it sounds like we're protecting people from, what we don't want to do is put in, young people who do some small offense and then they become, put them behind bars and then they become, lifelong criminals. And that's kind of the argument that's being used. But what we're forgetting is that, a lot of these people are criminals, and and
lifelong ones by the age of 25.
Well, yeah. I mean, you look at the rap sheets of some of these people. So, we've confused what should be, smart policing, smart prosecution with, I hate to use the word here, but woke prosecution. And so we have bastardized the prosecution process. We've bastardized the policing process to where we have a person like the one you just mentioned. Look at all the things that have gone wrong. And we're hearing these stories across the country, right, where people who have horrible records are out there, sometimes on with the ankle bracelet, and they're perpetrating more crimes and killing people. And so we're not going to look at it now. I can tell you that we're not going to look at these laws anytime soon to unwind them, because it's just not going to happen, especially this year, which is an election year. But you're going to start to hear people complain more and more, because we already heard, I guess, the San Francisco mayor already start to go backwards. London, I can't think of her last name.
London Breed, yeah. Yeah,
thanks. Start to speak in terms that are the opposite of what she was saying before. Much like you were saying about Lightfoot and COVID, they're having the outcomes, the results are so ludicrous that they're going to have to eat some of their words and try to figure out how to walk back some of this. But
right,
it's not going to happen soon.
And I expect from Jelly Belly, you'll hear the same thing you heard from Triple Threat, which is more federal resources. We're working with the federal, blah 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 blah. So they don't have to address what they are or are not doing at the state and local level. I mean, again, you're right. There's no pressure being felt by the power structure as it's currently constituted in Illinois to consider changes to the law. But there could be political pressure applied if there was the interest to do so, including at the gubernatorial level.
Well, there should be tons of pressure. I mean, this is maybe the number one thing that I'm hearing and seeing from people is parent control of schools and crime, and it's rampant now. But I think you're right, and you hit it on the spot. What they're going to do, both Pritzker and Lightfoot, is just say, here are these new $200 million programs, $400 million programs. We're going to address root causes. They're going to do all that kind of stuff. When in fact the first thing you do when you have a problem is you got to stop the leak. You got to stop the crisis, and then you focus on root causes. But they're just going to throw money. It's an election year. They're going to try to look good about it, and look what they're doing, and look how much they care.
And meanwhile, we had another 6 figures worth of Illinoisans flee the state in 2021. This is sort of an annual ritual at this point. So people aren't waiting around for things to change. They're going to go places where things are different.
Well, yeah, we always talk about the the exogenous factors that bring down Illinois and finally lead to change eventually, God knows when. But it's got to be population. If it's not some weird thing or some massive Chicago problem, it's going to be that continuous drip of people. And it's not a drip. This amount that was published by the census for the last year, 114,000 people left. That's almost 1% of the population. And you hate to think of it as a Puerto Rico thing where each year it's a little bit more to where suddenly the numbers become big enough that they matter. But when you lose 114,000 people in 1 year, it's the second most on a percentage basis in the country. That's the signal that things aren't working across the board. On top of being one of just 3 states to shrink in the last decade, so that's I don't want to call it the wake up call. That's the actual thing. Watch out for that. If it increases again in 2022, given that we're going to do more mandates, the vaccine mandates, just watch out. That's the one to watch out for.
You recounted this anecdote, a conversation you had with a successful entrepreneur who went west, young man, left Illinois, and why he did so at Wirepoints in this piece. And I loved his, even though it's not exactly spot on, I loved his metaphor for Illinois, cloaca maxima, referring to one of the world's first sewer systems in ancient Rome. But what he told you as to why he left.
Well, yeah, this is a guy who I got to know a little bit, not a lot, but I certainly you can read about him if you knew who he was, and you could Google him. Pretty engaged. He took on the politicians. He got involved in races. He got involved in talking about and writing about the finances of the city and the state. He wasn't shying away from getting engaged, and he just got sick of it because he said, I got nothing done, or I wasn't getting enough done. Things were going the wrong way, and so he told me. He didn't use the word sewer. He said the Illinois was in the and then he said it's already cloaca maxima. But he was fed up, and this is a guy who's very wealthy, funded companies, funded races. He was a guy that cared, and ticked off enough that he left. And this is the tax base erosion we're going to see if not if this continues, as it continues.
Now, cloaca maxima, though, that was a modern marvel of human innovation. The closest thing that we have is like the Bern interchange, which I think is taking longer than cloaca maxima took to build.
Well, the scary part is that the numbers are very big. At Wirepoints, we looked at the IRS data, the people that IRS tracks who moves where every year and how much money they take with them, what their incomes are, and the size of their families by naming the dependents on the tax return. And we lose on net 3,000 to 6,000 of these wealthy people that make 200,000 or more each year, and those numbers add up. And it's why we lose something like $5 to $6 billion a year of taxable income to other states. We're one of the biggest losers, if not the biggest, the second biggest loser in the country, to people leaving and taking their money with them.
I was talking to an estate planning attorney who's with one of the bigger firms in Chicago. And he also has a sizable book of business. But just one somewhat prominent estate planning attorney at one firm in Chicago, he said his firm is seeing $100 million worth of net worth in terms of their clients leaving Illinois every month. So it's just to try to get a hand. The numbers are so big. To try to get a handle on a little bit of a smaller number, and just think about extrapolating from there the sort of wherewithal that is leaving the state.
Yeah, and then there's the other side of the equation. Who's not coming in? The more that people figure out that this place is heading towards bankruptcy, why would you move here? Unless, of course, unless it's what Pritzker's doing and promoting Illinois as a sanctuary state, then we're attracting people who don't make that much money and are less productive than the ones we're losing. So net, we're just becoming a poorer state as well. So, the population might kind of hang in there because we bring in, immigrants and some legal, some illegal. But certainly we get poorer as a state, and our ability to fund the things that a lot of the people won't be there.
Well, and also too, the affordability piece of it. I mean, in addition, so affordability isn't an issue for some of the high-profile people, the rich people who leave, and that's significant. But also just sort of the upwardly mobile, the middle-income folks, the people who play by the rules. The United Van Lines survey is out again in 2021. The largest net gains in terms of from United Van Lines people moving 2 states. Vermont, South Dakota, South Carolina, West Virginia, and Florida. The bottom 5 states, New Jersey, Illinois, New York, Connecticut, California. What does that distribution tell you?
Geez, and the whole census data, also if you take the top 10 states that won all the people, that won all the wealth, they're winning the competition for people and their money compared to the bottom 10. It's really, red states that are open. You can kind of correlate it to COVID and all that stuff. Red states that are open, low tax, versus the blue states that are oppressive and high tax and, want to tell you what to do every day.
He is Ted Dabrowski, president of Wirepoints, wirepoints.com, all things Illinois policy related. Ted, thanks as always. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dan.
Join us on the Turnkey.pro answer line.
You're listening to Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
A while back, we at AmericanEagle.com were asked to build the e-commerce site of a major candy distributor. With the need for a website that could take into account everything from shipping times to local weather, because, candy melts, the task was not like taking candy from a baby. Fortunately, we live for a good digital challenge and free bonbons.